this prison in Norway is just fascinating, because they've got skill building sets and all sorts of things. You've got people that can learn tradie skills. I'll show you this while in prison.
How many years would you say you've done altogether?
8 years.
8 years. Ugh, it's tough, isn't it?
Well, you know,
or while in prison. It's an interesting concept as a prison model, because and it does go into detail about this. One of the prison officers was saying this kind of model works in Norway because they're trying to reduce reoffending stats. So a traditional prison, which concentrates on, say, suffering and all that sort of stuff, the reoffending stats was like 70%, whereas this Norway prison, it went down to 20%. So it's an interesting model. But going back to my thought as to why I highlighted this, it's not so much criticizing this prison model. It's more highlighting the fact that their freedoms and our freedoms. What is freedom? It really is a construct. It's freedom is not tangible. It doesn't really exist in reality. It's just something that exists in the mind of each person. So if you feel free, then I guess you are. It's that whole concept of I've been watching Matrix, the original Matrix, recently, and you had a choice between swallowing the blue or red pill, whether you stay in the Matrix in this fabricated reality. You take the blue pill, but if you take the red pill, you see the real world, you know. And there's that one character who doesn't want to see the real world anymore, so he would rather take the blue pill, even if he had to ruin it for everyone else. You know what I mean? I believe there's always going to be a percentage of people that feel comfort in being in the blue pill world, whereas us red pills are actually, I believe, rare, because we want to read the ingredients, and it's really just a rare thing. So here, anyway, the show today is about trying to connect the dots. I'm not saying I've got it all in line, and I do want this to be a conversation, so add comments below if you've got any ideas from what I'm sort of presenting here. And yeah, really, if you've got the tools to create your own videos, please post me your links to your channels, because I don't want this to be just about my ideas. Obviously, the reason why I like video sharing sites like this rather than, say, the other social medias is because we really can interact. You know what I mean? Like really communicate. So that's the first part of my video, is what is freedom. Second part of my video, I'm going to focus on news that's geographically specific to New Zealand, which is where I'm at, because that's my viewpoint of the world, you know. That's the spheres of the world that I can see in reality. I can read about news all over the world, and that's all fine and gravy, but one, I can't control what's happening overseas, and two, I can't cross-check or fact-check what's credible or not, because I'm not actually there. So I can only talk about what I can see in my own sphere, and then maybe share those ideas or stories for the world. So this is what's happening in New Zealand at the moment. The big thing at the moment that happened this week is, if you may or may not have heard, there was actually an accident in, I'll pull up the article here, on Auckland Harbour Bridge. So I've got a newspaper clipping here dated, so 22nd September is today. I've got a newspaper clipping dated today. Okay, cool. So I just wanted to point that out. Basically what happened was we've got a main bridge that connects central Auckland to North Shore. Okay, one bridge, and it's 61 years old. So it really is a pivotal part of our transport grid. But a gust of wind actually hit a southbound truck heading southbound. A gust of wind hit that truck, which then struck the truck. Then The truck then struck. I feel like Cat in the Hat here. The truck then struck the bridge structure. Okay, damaging an external pillar. And the truck righted itself, but at the same time, a northbound truck heading north was blown onto the medium barrier, worsening congestion. And the clip is on the paper there. So yeah, that gridlocked the whole thing. And I want to read between the lines. I'm all about follow the money. I'm all about connect the dots. What's the bigger picture here? But I'm going to read more of this article. So I took a photo of this article on my phone, and I'm just zooming into this picture because it was on a physical paper, not a digital website. So it's from the Herald. Let's see. Auckland is not due to get a new harbour crossing until the mid-2030s at the earliest. Friday's freak 127-kilometre gust of wind. So Friday being... So it's Tuesday today. So Friday would have been... so this happened on the 18th September, this event. So Friday's freak 127-kilometre-hour gust of wind then tipped two trucks on their sides, severely damaging a steel strut and causing traffic chaos. Now let's see if we can follow the money. Here we go. At the time of the local body elections, Tamahere was promising a superstructure, a double-decker bridge basically, developing the bridge further within 6 years with a cost of $10 billion. The current time frame of which is 2030. So 10 years to build a double-decker bridge of the cost of $10 billion. Let's skim this article further to follow the money. Let's have a look. National's proposal is included in its $31 billion infrastructure program, but uncosted, so it's just an estimate, I guess. But yeah, that's going to be interesting, because here's the thing: if you're not living in Auckland, why don't they just build a second bridge, you might be asking. We've had town planners in Auckland sort of brainstorm this already, but the problem, I believe, is actually a place to build the second bridge. There's not enough solid ground to kind of get that going as such. So that's the problem with building a second bridge. So here they're proposing a double-decker two-tier bridge, right? I would be more interested in train going across the bridge, but that would take ages as well. So I'm not a town planner, and I'm sure all these ideas have been thought out already, but the proposal is a double-decker bridge. Let's follow the money. Do you remember that story ages ago where in the South Island, I believe it was a Chinese building firm that wanted to make a really costly bridge motorway with like heaps of lanes that, you know, there's just not going to be enough cars to justify those lanes, going right through the South Island. And I believe Winston Peters and other people like that shut that down because what's the point, right? And some of our politicians are actually quite aware of the whole debt trap diplomacy, where superpowers like China try and build super amazing roads that lead to nowhere and infrastructure projects that cost billions of dollars, only to kind of put that country into massive debt, which then later, if that country cannot repay that debt, then they can ask for real assets. And New Zealand has already had a history of selling off shares in a lot of their infrastructure, such as power, water, all sorts of things. And I want to know, I'd be interested to know who's going to be contracted if this, well, not if, but when this bridge project takes into place, $10 billion within 6 to 10 years. Who's going to win that contract? Because here's an article that I pulled up from 11th of August 2010 from the Herald as well. Chinese look to make inroads into motorway projects. Chinese firms are, this is 2010 article, Chinese firms are eyeing local contracts, but some builders are voicing concern. Transmission gully motorway users could find themselves paying tolls to China in a few years' time if a Chinese government-owned company mounts a successful bid for the project. One of the world's biggest contractors, the Global China Road and Bridge Corporation, is eyeing up several major New Zealand roading contracts, including the long-planned Wellington motorway. And there's that article there from 2010. I just want to point this out because these sort of infrastructure projects have been going for years. But what does it do? It just really puts the country more into debt. Remember, this Labour government under Jacinda Ardern borrowed more money in 2 months than John Key from National from the 4 years election prior borrowed in 2 years. Labour borrowed the same amount in about 1 or 2 months. Wow, so our debt is going like that. Steep. Debt trap diplomacy is one of the most fascinating terms I've learned this year because it really summarizes what is happening on a global scale. Okay? Side note, the other day I saw a few luxury cars. I'm talking about that, the spider car, that, nice luxury car. Those sort of cars driving around Auckland. And not to be racist, but I was curious to see who was driving that. It was a very young Chinese guy and his girlfriend. Maybe he won lotto, but there's been so many cases of money laundering. Happening in New Zealand. And we have cracked down, the police and that have cracked down on certain money laundering activities. So they've frozen assets and things like that. So we are cracking down on it, but it's like that whole war, American war on drugs, right? I was watching another program on Netflix about that. When you've got the officials trying to combat criminals, it's a cat and mouse game, and I believe that money laundering is no different, right? Of course. So, there you go. So those are the two parts to this video that I just want to quickly run through. One is, what is freedom? What is freedom? What does freedom mean to you? What does freedom mean to you in your area? Are you doing okay? Is your country doing okay during these lockdowns? Let me know where you're from. Please comment below and share me your stories. If so, if you have your own channel, please send me the link, because I'd like to connect with like-minded people, because us red pills, I really do believe that there's not as many people willing to read the ingredients. And I believe it takes a certain person to become a red pill. And a truth seeker. I'm not going to use conspiracy theorists, because conspiracy means, not factual, I guess. But truth seekers. There's not many of us, and it takes a certain person, I believe, because one type of truth seeker, I believe, you really need to go through some form of trauma to become curious into asking questions. Me personally, I've gone through all sorts of trauma, but I've also seen these elites in person. I keep talking about how being a waiter in the UK when I was in my OE. I did the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation and all sorts of VIP events, Hollywood parties, entertainment parties and political parties, all in UK, and overhearing all that. So I've kind of seen the wastage in person, and it's really hard to really share that experience because, for one, like if you're as part of this agency, you're not allowed to take photos and all that. So I don't really have evidential photography to prove my point, but I really have seen all this sort of stuff, and I've seen the wastage, the debauchery, the corruption of these people. In my blog, I talk about blank faces a lot. Blank faces, these are the kind of psychopaths that we deal with. They just have blank faces and look at it as everything as a commodity, and how they can gain further for themselves, how they can use everything and everyone as a commodity. And does this all make sense to you? So yeah, freedom. What do you think? And two, there's quite a big story about the whole bridge thing. Let me see if I can read further of this. So they've actually started fixing this bridge, right? But they're going to stretch out this project. They're going to stretch it out and bleed it with money. Rather than building something from scratch, they'd rather repair it. Repair a 61-year-old bridge. Maybe put I liken it to that Simpsons episode where you have the Barbie dolls that were on sale in the shops, and to sell a new Barbie doll, they just put on a new hat, right? And that was the new Barbie doll, and everyone would flock towards that. I think they're just going to put on a new hat on the Harbour Bridge, make it look a little bit updated with a new lick of paint, and call it a day, but charge you $10 billion. Rather than just like building something. And here's a solution. Okay, problem solution. I'm going to conclude with possible solutions, and I'm no town planner, but you don't need to be a genius to come up with a solution. I've been to Australia. I've been to a few countries, and what I've noticed in like Sydney, for example, I've been to Sydney. What I've noticed is that's interesting layout that they have multiple city centres, like the Queen Streets. In Auckland we have the city centre, Queen Street, and that's it. In Sydney you have multiple areas of that. Why not build up North Shore, like say Takapuna or Devonport, maybe more Takapuna because you've got more commercial buildings there already, but build that up, build it up, densify it so that it's a new Queen Street. So that you don't have this congestion, right? You don't have this need of that many cars having to travel across the bridge, because a lot of the time those people traveling across the bridge, they're just trying to get to work. And obviously now with the new models of work from home and things like that, you don't really need to be in the office anymore, right? So I just don't understand why we should spend $10 billion on this project where it's like an obsolete technology, right? We've got all these other ideas and that we can use. So why not just make a new city centre in North Shore? One more article I want to quickly cover here is this article from OneRoof.co.nz. OneRoof is like a property website, and the article goes to say, I'm just opening it up now. Here we go. It's the unreliability why traffic is driving where Aucklanders buy homes. This was posted today as well. Some people are moving out of Auckland rather than dealing with the traffic, and that was before the damaged Harbour Bridge. David Ding from Harcourts, North Shore Central, has a number of vendors heading to Hamilton, Tauranga, Rotorua, Taupo, Napier, anywhere where the traffic is not so bad. People are making big life decisions based on the traffic, he says. Lots of people are complaining, oh, I hate Auckland traffic, stuck in traffic for 1 hour, blah, 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 blah. People are just sick of it, and so they move out. Yeah. And plus, the average property now is just quickly rising. We bought this house in the high 700s, 780 to be exact, 3-bedroom bungalow, 1950s. This house has now gone up 100,000 in less than a year. And I've been following a few economy reports locally, and there was predictions that because of COVID and all these lockdowns, property would actually go down, but what did it do? It spiraled up even further. Housing is another matter, right? I think we are just playing housey, you know what I mean? We are just playing a game that basically makes it the economy revolve all around housing. Rather than housing being a necessity for people to live, like a necessity, human right, it's another commodity. And that's what I talk about, those blank face elites that I talk about. It's all about commodities. It's painful. It's painful to watch that humans are being treated as commodities, and all the suffering is in play, all because a small few benefit from it. So we are no better than battery hens, you know what I mean? This is what all these high density residential places that are shoeboxes, I don't know why people are buying into that, because really you're just becoming battery hens. Right? So, how do I want to conclude this video? How do I want to conclude this video? Just remember that everything in terms of law, politics, it's all about language. Interestingly enough, I know a few teachers in New Zealand, and they're phasing out things like Shakespeare in Auckland schools and things like that. Shakespeare is about wordplay, language, creativity, all that sort of stuff. They're phasing out words from dictionaries. Because if you can't find the words to defend yourself, the language, then it's like education. Do you remember like when the church was really in the hub of power? They would speak Bible verses in Latin and things like that, and people would be like, wow, they're amazing because everything's in Latin and I don't understand, but this feels majestic, right? It's no different to law, right? No normal person can read through the Omnibus Act in Victoria 2020 or the COVID Act 2020 and really understand it all, because it's not designed to be understood. So just remember that education, don't rely on the mainstream education. Watch channels like this to enlighten yourself, further your education. Continue the meeting of minds of people around your community. The meeting of minds, because that's how you're gonna continue the knowledge. Comment below. Thanks for watching this channel, and I hope to see your future channels or whatever. Comment below. Thanks for watching. Bye from Auckland, New Zealand. Kia ora.